Hello, and welcome to another episode of Time to Conquer. I am your host, Mia Paul, and like always, I want to start us off by saying thank you for deciding to spend a couple moments of your very busy life with me in your ear as we work to break the cycles of our past, stop the self-sabotage, and start to live a life we love. Now, things always change, and if there's anything I'm learning in this journey of podcasting and self-improvement and transformation, it is the best plans always have hiccups. At the end of the last episode, I shared that we would be filming this podcast from a new location, and I was so focused while packing on making sure I had my microphone and the correct cords and my laptop that I forgot my laptop charging cord. And of course, we traveled on a Sunday, and I usually record on Thursdays, and my computer was at like 8% when it came time to record. So I was not willing to start the recording, start this podcast, and then lose it to a dead computer. So we rolled with the punches. We are back home in our office, and we are recording it now, doing what we can do. But I will always stay consistent in showing up, even if it's not perfect. This past week, I spent time with my family. We traveled to Florida safely, and we went house hunting. We are looking for a second home to use as an investment property, and also, since we have family there, for us to be able to use personally when we travel ourselves rather than staying in hotels. I know the concept of travel right now is different for everybody, but we did our research. We went to what we consider safe place, and we thought that by renting out a home in the neighborhood that we are looking to buy in, we would be able to really experience the community as a visitor to see if it was something we would want to purchase and move forward in. However, our idea of travel is pretty seclusive. We did fly, but wore our masks. We rented a car and went straight to this home. We picked up groceries. We cooked it at this house. We did try to stay, for the most part, as isolated as possible. And in the end, we felt very comfortable with the airline we chose and the rental-car company we used, and the home was very, clean and sanitized. And in the end, it was good. However, it wasn't just vacation. It wasn't just house hunting. It wasn't just a birthday celebration. It was a much needed break from our regular routine and the stress and chaos of our normal life. You see, we have a lot going on in our family. We own multiple businesses. We have things like this podcast going on. We have 2 small children that were just beginning our homeschooling journey. And recently, in the past couple of months, stress and anxiety have been extremely high. Thankfully, I have a very supportive spouse. My husband and I, we work together really well to balance each other out on the times that I need extra space and grace. He's able to provide that for me. In the times he needs support here at home so he can accomplish his goals and keep our business afloat with what he needs to do, I'm able to provide that to him. But even though we have each other, it doesn't mean we are immune to feeling overwhelmed. It doesn't mean that there aren't times we just need to be able to reset together as a family and sort of remember why we work so hard, why this life that we're working so hard to build is worth it, because we're definitely the people that think that the hard work is worth it to be able to enjoy the harvest of the work together. Now, we've talked in previous episodes about seasons of life and how sometimes you're in the super stressful work season, so you can move into the relaxing and harvesting season to see all of the hard work come to fruition and enjoy it. However, from my personal experience with my family and the experiences of my clients that I work with one-on-one, I have noticed and have known for a while that sometimes in those seasons of work, in those seasons of stress, of overwhelm, those are the hardest times to reflect and realize, is this a time that I need to take a break? Am I doing too much? Am I really showing up as the person I want to be for the people that matter? Or am I so stressed out and so anxious and so overwhelmed that I'm really not being the person that I want to be? I'm not being the person I hope to be. And in seasons of transformation, no matter where you are in your journey, maybe you're feeling a little burnt out. Maybe you're feeling some of those overwhelming feelings and stress and thoughts of, I don't even feel like I can breathe right now. How am I going to be able to transform? So today in our episode, we are going to share and talk about 3 signs, just 3 signs in your life that could hopefully help you reflect and see that maybe this is a moment that you need to take a step back, reflect, do something to fill your cup and take a break so you can come back as the best person you are capable of. We don't need to take much time explaining things because honestly, these questions are reflective questions. You are the only person who will be able to know if these questions are something that impact you. If these words are something that resonate with you in your mind, like, yes, you know, Mia, you are right. I didn't realize it because I was so stuck in the day-to-day grind, but I have found myself doing these things. So let's get into it and let's see if you are in a place where you have been working so hard in your transformation, you have been working so hard towards your goals that you lost sight of taking a breath, taking a break, and resetting your intentions. The first thing we're going to talk about is if you, number 1, find yourself going through the motions with no emotions. Sometimes we find ourselves checking off the boxes just to check it. Now, don't get me wrong. I am a type A personality. I love my checklists. Absolutely. I need them to feel like I'm accomplishing something throughout my day, my week, my month. I'm always going towards some goals. But recently, I have found personally that I was checking off the boxes. I was showing up for these calls, for my podcasts. I was expanding my goals, expanding my brand, finding new business opportunities, but there was no emotion behind it. I felt like a zombie going through my day, like, wake up, do this, XYZ, check. When I say checking off the boxes, sometimes that needs to happen. And sometimes some of those boxes don't require emotion. Sometimes things like doing a daily workout, eating your healthy food, spending quality time with personal development, like on podcasts or reading books. Sometimes there are days you don't have the emotions to do that, but you get them done anyways. It's when on a routine basis, on a daily basis, you find yourself going into them with not necessarily neutral emotion, but maybe negative emotion. There's a dread. I have to do this workout today. Here I am eating healthy again when everyone else around me is drinking alcohol and ordering takeout 24/7. Here I am pushing play on this podcast, but I don't really want to hear anything they have to say. Those are the moments you need to take a break, realize that if you are going through with no emotions, checking off that box means nothing if it's not fulfilling you in some way. If it's not filling your cup in a way that makes you better, sometimes doing it just to do it is worse than not doing it at all. I'm not saying throw all of your self-development and self-improvement tactics and habits out the window. Not at all. But you may need to do some self-reflection and see what you can change, maybe what you can do to bring some new excitement into those old and established habits. This past week, we did a workout every single day because working out makes me feel good. It makes me prepared for my day. It takes the stress that I have and allows me to get it out in a healthy way. But we did our workouts without taking videos of them and without tracking our weights or tracking our AMRAPs. We just did them to feel good. And it was nice. We bought food, like I had said, to make our breakfasts and our lunches in our home to 1, save some money, 2, stay away from people, and 3, so we knew that some good nutrition was going into our body. But we also experimented in some new restaurants and ordered some takeout for some food that we don't usually find easily accessible in our home here in Wisconsin. There's a lot more options in Florida where we vacationed. We stayed consistent with our healthy eating, but also gave ourselves some grace and leeway, knowing that this was just going to be 1 week of our life that we could order the extra piece of cheesecake or go to this restaurant we wouldn't normally go to because we knew we'd come home and get right back into our routine. Those check boxes are only fulfilling if you feel good doing them. So if you find that maybe you're just going through the motions, it might be a good time to reevaluate why you want to accomplish these things, why you feel it's important to check off these boxes, and maybe some new ideas, a break, some grace, and remembering that why will help you feel more accomplished by checking off those boxes and doing it with happy and positive emotions, not neutral, not negative, being proud that you are accomplishing the things you set out to accomplish. The second step we're going to talk about that you might find yourself falling into that shows you need to reevaluate how things are going is if, number 2, you find yourself allowing others to push your boundaries in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable. I am a recovering people pleaser. I went through trauma and I went through abandonment and trauma as a child. When you go through that, usually grown adult reaction is to try to make everybody happy because you don't want anybody to leave. And now I'm not saying that that's being a kind person, being an empathetic person, being somebody who wants to be around to help others is not a bad thing. But doing it at the expense of your own boundaries, that's where the line needs to be drawn. People pleasing sometimes happens when we are feeling the worst inside. We have the mindset like if we're not feeling happy ourselves, the least we could do is make somebody else happy. If we aren't feeling fulfilled in our day-to-day lives, let's put our stuff to the back burner and make sure the others around us are at least feeling good and helping them in any way we can. Now, I am a certified life coach. My job is to help others take control of their lives and move forward in a way that helps them create a life that they love. Sometimes I get wrapped up in that myself. Sometimes I do personal development and I do growth-focused actions because I know it'll help others. I listen to a specific podcast because I know that's a struggle one of my clients is going through, and I need a new perspective to be able to bring to them. I watch a YouTube video because it resonates with me, because someone else I had just spoken to shared that they are struggling the same thing. So I want to fulfill my duty as their coach by learning and growing and coming to them with new tactics to help. Sometimes being a coach is its own worst enemy, because you're so focused on others, you forget to focus on yourself. The best tactic to move forward from this is to make sure you have somebody to hold you accountable for your own personal growth. I don't know one successful coach that doesn't have their own coach. Setting your boundaries can be scary. And sometimes it's easy to set a boundary with a pencil. Something that's easily erasable, something that's easily moved. What I have found is when you are feeling like you're creeping towards that burnout, when you are feeling like maybe others are taking advantage of the time you are giving them, but not returning that time back, either in the form of being there for you when you need somebody, or putting in their own time and effort into themselves and their own transformation, their evolution, their growth. So when they do come to you, they have progress. They've done the inner work, the hardest part, so you can continue to help them grow. If somebody's not doing that, it is draining to keep helping them. How many of us have a friend that constantly asks us for advice? We give them advice and then they do the exact opposite and they don't listen at all, and they don't even consider the tactics you give them, and then they just keep on living their life ignoring what you said, and in a couple months they go through the same struggle, the same problem, and we find ourselves in the position where they are asking for our advice again, and we're like, why do I want to give you advice? Why do I want to take my time to listen to your problems and give you my solutions or give you ideas at least to think about on your own time when I know you're not going to do it? Why would I do that? Setting boundaries sometimes need to be boundaries in Sharpie. Sometimes you need to know where you are going so you can be the one to dictate how your time is used. I found myself recently, in the past, I have always spent Sundays as my family day. I rarely respond to text messages. I almost do zero work. I spend that day resting or recuperating with my family. Recently, I have found myself in the past couple of weeks spending Sundays doing everything for everybody else. And then Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we're back to Sunday, my day of rest. And instead of resting, it's just another work day. And I found myself burnt out. I found myself struggling. And for a minute, I didn't understand why. It's because I didn't set that boundary as hard as I thought I had. There are people in my life that know that boundary. They know if they text me on a Sunday, unless it's an emergency, they're probably not going to hear back from me until Monday. But slowly but surely, I let other people's quote unquote emergencies affect my boundary. And the thing is an emergency is sometimes different from person to person. Again, we talk about giving advice and people not listening and not taking it. So then, why spend the time? But sometimes in somebody else's mind, their emergency needs to take priority. But in your mind, your boundary needs to take priority. So if you find yourself allowing your boundaries to kind of shift, be like a amoeba of boundaries that are strict one week and not so strict the other week, this is the time to sit down and establish for yourself what those boundaries are going to be. Maybe it's just one or two things. Maybe you realize you've let other people dictate how your time and energy is spent way more than you want, and it's a whole bunch of boundaries that need to be set. But the best news is you are the only person who can dictate how your time and energy is spent, and you set the expectation and the standard for how it will be moving forward. Anybody who's not willing or able to honor those boundaries, that shows you right there that that is somebody that is not going to be in the top priority of your time or your effort or in your mind, because if they can't honor your boundaries, you don't need to worry about them. The third one is pretty fast, so don't worry. Stick with me here. We're going to make this episode quick for Mia's standards at least. If you find yourself with limited motivation. Now, motivation is different to everybody, and motivation is fleeting always for everybody. Everybody, the most successful speakers, the most successful leaders, the best mentors in the world have days where they have limited or no motivation. However, in this tip, in this tactic, in this sign that we're looking to internally to see if we need to take a break, motivation in this aspect is going to be more like drive. If you find yourself with limited drive, if you know what your goals are, if you've set that vision board, if you've set those monthly, weekly, quarterly, yearly goals, and you're working towards them, but just begrudgingly, you're just dragging your feet a little bit. You're not feeling that fire inside, the fire you had when you set those goals, when you went to that personal development conference and you came home just on fire with pages and pages of notebook notes, and you listened to that podcast and every single thing that speaker said resonated with you and you were ready to change your life. If you aren't finding yourself with that fire in your belly, it doesn't matter how much you want that goal, because you are not going to accomplish it in a timely fashion, in a way that brings you joy, because you need to have some motivation or some drive in a positive way that reminds you why it's worth it. One of the best things that came out of this past week of taking my social media detox, I didn't have a working phone for a while. We didn't know anybody. Obviously, it was just us and our family in this rental home. One of the best things that came out of it is I remembered why we work so hard. I remember why our goals are so big. I remembered why all of this is worth it. Because those times that we were able to spend with each other were invaluable. We slept in and we laughed and we played card games and we swam in the pool and we cooked good food and we snuggled on the couch and we just spent time together. Sometimes you need to have those intense seasons of growth and change and work and damn near constant progress towards your goals to be able to have the weeks of rest and of harvest and of vacation and of travel and of downtime. Those two are pieces of a puzzle, because without one, you can't have the other, or you will very rarely have the other. And without the other, you won't appreciate the rest. If we hadn't worked so hard in these past couple of months, we could have still gone on vacation, and we could have just worked through the vacation, and we could have just not been so focused on our time together. But because we had such a crazy last quarter, we were able to check out of our normal life for this past week and just be together. And those are the things that will remind you why you are doing it. And maybe it's not your family. I hope if you have a family, it is. If you have small children, if you have a spouse, maybe you're not in that life stage yet, and it's you and your friends, and you want to be able to enjoy that time with them, or your parents, or your other family members, or maybe it's spending some time with yourself. Sometimes that's the scariest thing, right? It's easier when we're surrounded by people to have that smile on our face and be happy and joyful. But sometimes we need to be able to remember that we are capable of feeling those feelings when we are alone as well. One of the best things you can do for yourself and the others in your family is to take the time necessary to rest and reset. The longer your fatigue has lasted, the longer you have been in that season of growth and work and stress and overwhelm and anxiety, the harder it will be to recover from it. So if it's been a while, you may need to take more drastic steps. It had been almost 5 full months for our family, so 1 full week was exactly what we needed. But the good news is, if you are listening to this podcast and you are like, well, it hasn't been months, it's just been a couple weeks, a couple days, maybe just 1 month that I've been feeling like this. The good news is if you catch it early, you will be able to turn it around with some focused effort in a short amount of time. So maybe it's an afternoon where you turn off your phone. Maybe it's what I have been trying to do with 1 day a week, no work, no emails, no messenger, no this, that, or the other, just doing something you want to do. Go on a hike, kayak in the river, sit on your couch and watch Netflix. Most of those times you will find that some focused effort in a very dedicated space will refill your cup, help you feel refreshed, and let you move forward into the next week, the next month, the next year, whatever your goal, your timeline of goals are. It will help you move forward feeling able to breathe. And in the end, that's all we really want, right? Feeling like we're not just treading water with the water right below our chin and we're working so hard to stay above, but instead floating comfortably, knowing that we will be doing our best every day. We talked about in the beginning of this podcast, episode 1 or 2, that sometimes your best is just surviving, and sometimes your best is checking off all of those boxes on your to-do list plus some. Whatever your best is, you need to feel good going into it. Whatever that day will bring, the more you feel in control of how you feel internally, the less you will feel the need to control the outside sources of your stress, because we all know there's some things you can't control, but what you can control is your heart, your mind, and where you put your effort and your time. So I hope these 3 things that we have gone through in this podcast, finding yourself going through the motions with no emotion, checking off boxes just to do it, just to say the to-do list is done. Allowing others to push your boundaries in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable. Pleasing others because you are not pleased yourself. Or finding yourself with limited drive, limited motivation because you don't feel that fire in your belly. If you find yourself saying that any of those things are true, any of those things are valid in how you're feeling right now, I challenge you to take a step back, take a breath, and find something that you can do for yourself and those loved ones around you to take a break from that daily hamster wheel, that daily stress and anxiety, and take a moment or a couple moments, days or a week, whatever you need to fill your cup again so you can come back better than ever, ready to crush those goals, ready to be the best person you are capable of being. My friends, I am so thankful that you have chosen me as one of the people in your life to help you on this journey of transformation. If, while listening to these podcasts, you realize you are ready to take the next step and not just have me in your ear as a speaker, but maybe form a connection with me on a one-on-one basis, I would love to offer you a free 30-minute consultation call to see if we would be a good fit moving forward. You can find the link to schedule that call with me in the show notes of this podcast, and by finding me on social media. Instagram is always best, and sending me a message. You can email me. The link is on my Instagram, or you can send me a carrier pigeon, a smoke signal. A good review would always be blessed, and I would always be blessed to get a good review. But I would love to be your coach if you are at a place where you are ready to take the next step, do some one-on-one, and figure out what we can do together to help you take control of your life and start to live a life you love. Thank you for joining me this week. Thank you for being part of the family, and thank you for being some of the people who constantly remind me why this is worth it. Some of your messages recently have made my day. When you send me a message saying that the words I am saying are resonating with you and making you feel like somebody gets it, it reminds me exactly why I started this podcast. It reminds me why I became a life coach, and it reminds me to constantly strive to be better, to become a person that can help you become the person you are meant to be. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I am so excited to speak with you again next week. We will continue our journey together, and I will always be here for you. Hope you have a great rest of your day.